just recently filed to run in 2010 for Ramsey County Sheriff is Matt Bostrom, and he joins us now on the phone. Welcome to the show. Let me turn you up here again. Let me try that again. Hello, Matt. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. All right. I'm not sure if what
great.
button I hadn't pushed, but it is your official title is Assistant Chief right now, correct?
Yes, at the St. Paul Police Department.
And you have decided you want to be the head honcho over at Ramsey County. Can you tell me why?
Well, I think it's a great job. The sheriff's office is really historically a unique position. And as I've had an opportunity to serve the public for 27 years as a St. Paul police officer, and kind of that larger experience with emergency management and other regional events, it became clear that maybe a way to use my skills best is to perhaps consider the sheriff's position because of that the regional influence that the sheriff has in law enforcement.
Now, you're going to be running against, assuming that he's running again, the current sheriff. That would be Mr. Fletcher. What would you be doing anything different than Mr. Fletcher has been doing in the department?
Well, why don't I can probably talk about my record, and then what I would do is leave that and hopefully provide enough clarity that people would have a very clear choice.
Okay, let's do that.
And so maybe I'll look at it that way. And my values are focused on community, and in knowing that the police officer's ability to provide a safe neighborhood is directly proportional to the relationship they have with the neighborhood. And that's something that takes a great deal of time, mutual trust, and collaboration on just about every aspect of community life. And that's something that I've been committed to. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And I think based on that, then there's achievable things that happen, and you're able to make those reductions in neighborhood crime. You're able to partner with the community to do long-term things that improve the quality of life. And, there's few occupations that people have a chance to participate in where you get to do those kinds of things.
That's, I've heard the word community policing used as a way that, you'd like to approach this. Tell me, what's the difference between community policing and what is being done right now?
Well, I think community policing is, and I'm not sure how it's different, other than I would say this is what I've done, and this is what I know works. Certainly, I believe it's the best practice, and so that's something that I try to pride myself on, as being aware of what best practices are, and then being able to implement them. And so, what would that mean? I think that would mean, when it comes to areas where you would patrol, is you don't just use patrol cars. You might use foot patrols. You might use community letters or newsletters, kinds of things. Working on a variety of means of communication. And the other side of it too is being strategic, not necessarily doing any broad brush policing, but rather using data to support the reasons why you do what you do. Don't assume that everybody in a neighborhood is causing problems. Generally speaking, you can determine that you can narrow it down to maybe one or two events or incidents, or perhaps just one person. And so, you use a healthy strategy and deal with a problem as opposed to any broad brush approaches. And your ability to do those things is directly proportional to the relationship you have with the community. If they trust the police officers that are there, they're willing to come alongside. And in the same fashion, the police officers are willing to come alongside the community, and it spirals upward.
So it sounds like, let's just get to know each other. If the police officers are going to be out in the community, let's put the same police officers on the same beat so people get to know them, and we establish trust before we get into places where people are going to be a little bit mad at each other and things could inflame. I mean, it sounds like if people know each other a little bit better, the chances of people having conflict with each other is going to be a little bit less.
Mike, you said it just perfectly, and that's one of the issues that I think law enforcement drifted from. And I'm going to say maybe it was not through bad intentions. Police officers during the advent of vehicles, once they got in cars, they thought if they got to the call faster, that was going to make people more safe. But the problem is that you race from call to call, you have your windows up, and you really never get a chance to interact with people. And so therefore, you soon become a stranger driving in an unusual car through a neighborhood that people really don't know. And now all of a sudden that distance, and then some suspicion can creep in because it's a stranger. You know, we generally don't respond well to strangers. And so then, you know, where I was talking, it's inverse. Where I was talking about that upward spiral as you get to know people, the downward spiral begins. And so I think that most police officers, when they take that oath of office, do it to have healthy relationships and make a difference. But the issue is that when you become dependent on one means of delivering service, let's say patrol, answer the call, drive to the house, talk to the people, get in your car and drive to the next house, something gets lost. And so we want to get back to that style of policing.
Let's talk for a moment about the credibility of the department. I think the credibility of maybe the sheriff's department and police in general took a couple of hits in the last year. We had what we saw happen at the Republican National Convention, and no matter where you're standing on this, the outcome was not optimal, and you know, that is true. And we have the problems now, the whole thing that's come out with the Metro Gang Strike Force. Obviously, the everybody's kind of part of that. Everybody, you know, all the officers have a stake in this because it's their credibility at stake. Yeah. How do we deal with this?
Well, I'm deeply saddened and by those things because it takes a lifetime to build credibility, and it only takes one event to lose that. And I feel like in some cases, although we have thousands of police officers, there are some that have made some judgments that while I don't have all the facts, so I'm going to be cautious. So I'm going to try to be a good police officer and get all sides of the story. But what I've seen in the media, boy, it sure doesn't look good for the folks that were involved in the Metro Gang Strike Force. I mean, that is so far outside the bounds of the law enforcement that I've practiced and my colleagues have practiced. I can't believe it's 2009. But the other side of it too is I think you touched on the Republican National Convention, and I think this is the first time the Twin Cities, and in particular St. Paul, has ever attempted to host a national event that had international interest. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but you know, if I just help plan a birthday party for one of my children, you know, when that's over, I always think, you know, I would have done that differently. and you know, I don't want to minimize that, but I'm wired that way. And I'd say the same thing about the RNC. I mean, you know, something that large, and knowing what I know now, boy, there's some things that I do differently. And the advice that I would give to other agencies or cities that were interested in doing an event like that. I have lots of advice and counsel for them.
Well, we've got a few minutes here. What would you advise? What would we do different? What did we learn?
Well, think carefully about hosting a political convention.
Okay.
I think that, you know, just that in and of itself. You know, Denver had their hands full as well. I mean, you know, and so, you know, I think about that. Well, for cities, you know, do that because, you know, have some really good reasons why you want to do that. And I think that there were some positive outcomes from that. But, you know, generally speaking, that's not as interesting to talk about. But there were some positive things. I would have to admit that. The other thing I would say is that for a city that would be our size, you know, when you have to build, you have to have pre-existing partnerships, healthy partnerships with the law enforcement agencies around you. Otherwise, it would be impossible to provide the level of safety for the citizens in that town that you'd like, to provide the type of access, particularly as it surrounds First Amendment issues. Mm-hmm. You know, having uniformity on how you want to manage just free speech issues. A lot of cities have their own culture and how they focus on that. And you know, when I looked at where the city of Denver and how they looked at free speech versus what we did in St. Paul, I'm very proud of what we had. But there's people that were here that would say, oh, boy, we should have had more access. So, again, it kind of depends on where you stand. And those are the kinds of things that I would tell other cities that would be interested in or police departments that were going to try to provide the safety for something like that, is get into and have conversations with the community. You know, maybe the way to look at it is community impact meetings. Mm-hmm. You know, and we did some of that. I would recommend doing even more of it now that I have a chance to look back on it.
And I'm not going to rehash the RNC. I think that a lot of things happened that we did learn from, and I hope that we go forward and make things more positive in the future on that. I want to take a look at going forward. We've got just about a minute left. What positive things can we expect to see in Ramsey County should you get elected sheriff?
Well, what I'm excited about is the opportunity to bring that sense of community trust and relationship to the sheriff's office in a way that's never been there before. I think the sheriff's office has a portion of the public safety glue that no one else possesses in the East Metro, that they can provide that common professional background that ends at a city border. For instance, Minneapolis or Maplewood or North St. Paul, or, you know, their jurisdiction ends at their city border. The sheriff transcends that and can provide assistance to large agencies and small agencies alike. And if it's a professional agency, then that influence then radiates and cascades throughout the county. And so that part is exciting. And so really raising the bar professionally. And as I said, I think the sheriff's office is in just a tremendously unique position to provide that.
Well, Matt,
and so you would see that, and oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
I was going to say we are out of time on our segment here, but Matt Bostrom, I appreciate you coming on. Just announcing the other day that he is running for Ramsey County Sheriff. Best wishes to you in the election.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate your interest.